Welcome to the Cattle Talk Podcast, your weekly breakdown of cattle market fundamentals, key news, and the insights shaping the industry. Trading commodity futures and options involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors.
Today is February 6th. I've got Jeff here with us today. How's it going, Jeff?
It's going great, Mike.
You are fresh off Nashville Cowboy Country at CattleCon. You forgot your cowboy hat today. I was really disappointed. I thought you'd have one of those big foam ones from like the football games.
Yeah, you can get some pretty impressive equipment down there. I think you can drop around $2,500 on a hat if you'd like to, Mike.
That's more your budget, Jeff. I did.
I'm not sure if I'm fresh either, but I am back from CattleCon.
It is a heck of a show from the sounds of it. Just like they're selling cowboy boots and hats and stuff, but they're grilling steaks out there too.
Yep.
So I don't know. Compared to other events, it sounds like for an ag event, that one's really fun to attend, isn't it?
It is. It is pretty fun, and there is a lot of people. There's a lot of people in the
how
beef.
Many thousand?
There was 9,400 or 9,500, I think, was the last count that I saw down there. That's
a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people.
What
Downtown Nashville was this year, so they do a really nice job down there too. They're set up to handle a lot of people, of course.
Yeah, I bet Nashville's an awful time
with
a bunch of cowboys. What are a few of the main talking points and takeaways? I mean, you even met the man RFK himself.
Yeah, that was pretty neat for me, I guess. I maybe haven't followed his work as much as a lot of others have. Shame on me, but he did. So once they heard that this was getting together and there was going to be 9,000 cattlemen and women in the same place at the same time, their RFK folks reached out to the cattlemen. Is what we've been told.
Cool.
So he wanted to come and talk to that many cattlemen, and of course you can imagine what the topics were, right? I mean, he talked about his upside down pyramid a bunch. Really pushed the idea that protein has got to be the number one staple in these diets, right? And I think a lot of us have known that for a while. But what really kind of impressed me, and I think this was intentional, like he sent a message to the cattlemen that were in that room that, hey, we need you folks to start rebuilding your herd. Mm-hmm. Stop killing the mama cows and start breeding more of them. We're going to need more beef down the road.
Did he say how the government or they are going to try to influence that a little bit?
No, certainly
People
not.
do what the market tells them to do, right?
Right.
I mean,
well, and the market is sending some very strong signals today to build the cow herd. Mm-hmm. Now, it's always difficult, right? You have to make the decision of, am I going to sell her for $3,000 or do I keep her and make some more calves out of her? But even we were doing some LRP strategizing down there with some cow calf folks, and you can protect $2,900 of revenue on a wean calf for next fall. Mm-hmm. So even if you're spending $6,000 on the heifer, if you could LRP her first calf for half that much.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. The motivation is there. I think he's trying to instill some confidence in the industry of, hey, we think this is going to be a game changer as far as demand goes, and we're going to need beef. And if you don't produce it for us, we're going to import it. We don't want to import that. He said nobody in this administration wants to import beef, but
if we have to, we will.
I think that's what my takeaway. That was reading between the lines a bit, but that was my takeaway.
Another main takeaway from him, it sure sounds like from the crew that attended there, he seemed very well informed. I probably don't give them or politicians or some of those people enough credit with, like, I think they know a little bit about a lot of stuff.
Yep.
And it sounds like he really knew what was going on and knew talking points and was well informed on the cattle industry.
Yeah. He could talk about the different primal cuts. He understood how the increased carcass weights were helping offset the reduced inventory. He had a lot of that figured out. You can tell he's done his research.
That's honestly pretty impressive.
Yes.
Yep. That should be noted anyways. So,
yep.
Any other talking points from Nashville?
Well, the kind of along the same lines is, CattleFax does a couple hour market review there on the Thursday morning this year, I believe. Yeah, and they do nice work. We work with them, as you know, Mike. At the shop here, we have a relationship with them. Get their.
I always
information.
liked their charts and stuff back in the day before we made our own on Pro Ag Power. Ours kick the crap out of them now, but I always liked those.
Shameless plug there in case you
there
didn't
you
pick
go,
that up,
Cade.
Cade.
Yeah.
And I would even give them some credit for the charts that they do today, Mike. They do throw a lot of good information at you. So this does align with our line of sight, so maybe that's why I grab onto it so aggressively. But they're pretty confident that we're starting to build the cow herd. We're starting to keep some heifers back. We've got a few less heifers on feed. We're not really seeing any fewer heifers going to slaughter as a percentage of the total kill or anything like that. We did have the cow inventory report out last week. They're suggesting we're still going down a little bit on the cow herd as of Jan 1. But yes, we are starting to retain more heifers than what we did last year. CattleFax's numbers seem to be at a little bit quicker rate than what that USDA report
So they
suggested.
go off their own data set, right? They don't go off. Do they use what the inventory report told us last week?
They're going to run some of each
Okay.
at you. So yep, they're going to use some of their own stuff, some of what they're gathering from the USDA, and other market observations like the cattle on feed numbers, right? So yeah, it really solidified in our minds that we are turning the corner on this supply cycle. But definitely think we're going to start growing the number of cows that we have around. That obviously, as you well know, that's not going to immediately put any supply on the market. That's probably actually going to take a little bit off the market. Probably is taking some supply off the market today, I would argue. But as you look into 2027, I didn't write the number down, so don't quote me, but I think they're thinking like 300, 400,000 more head to go to market in 27 than what 25
and 26 even tighter this year. Up
26
first half.
So if the border opens, they would say we would kill a few more cattle in 26 than what we did in 25.
Because they think back half of the year in 26 it opens, and that's about a 4% supply bump. It's like 1 million, 1.2 a year out of the 24.
Yep, nope, that's all spot on. So, and very much identify the same thing we were looking at here. Short-term supply looks really short, really bullish. I mean, the fact that we are killing, we talked about this a couple times, right? So I won't dwell on it, but the numbers that we're killing and still having to go up in cash. We're going to be higher again in cash today, Mike, than last week. That's
and it was
just
up
incredible.
$5 last week, probably $2 this week.
I bet, it's going to be pushing
5,
3
7.
the way it looks. Some of the stuff, especially the stuff that we're seeing happen in the South today. They're pushing pretty hard. So 2 to 3 higher again, super low kills. We know what that story looks like. Fairly optimistic here on the short run. The other item that we've talked about and was discussed down there is the demand side, of course. We've been watching these demand metrics. We're looking at choice meat versus the production that we're putting on the out the backside of these packing plants. We're looking at the choice select spread. All that's starting to, I'm not saying it's a huge alarm bell or anything like that, but there's a few chinks in the armor there. We've talked about that too. The true test will be here as we get closer to March, and a more seasonal time frame for that meat to be rallying.
I know a big thing for RFK has been watching hamburger specifically prices. Did he mention anything about the primals with that specifically, like trying to specifically get hamburger prices down?
I did not hear anything. I'm not saying it space out for a minute or two, but I did not hear anything about prices.
Gotcha.
So I think from that standpoint, now if we want to fast forward a minute, just wait a day, right? Now Trump's back on the social media at noon today.
Yeah, that was the news today, right? Saying that maybe Cade's got something on it, but Trump said that he was going to quadruple the imports from Argentina after all this. So we just got done speaking about how that administration doesn't want to import any beef if they don't have to, and then right after that, They said they're going to quadruple,
don't
which
like
that
today's
number's
news-
small anyways. Argentina's not the biggest deal in the world, but yeah,
It's what I think with the the market adjusted good $2.50 I would say.
Yeah.
About noon today off that news.
You
It was
know-
rocketing higher because of the it was down yesterday. We can talk about that in a minute too. Probably shouldn't have been. So it was
Yeah.
scooting higher today, trying to catch up with the cash market. That came out and they smacked it pretty hard. I'm thinking if and the managed money is always going to get nervous in these situations, right? But as I looked at that today, it's like, well, I wonder if part of what they're worried about is does he is that only the beginning of what he throws out there this weekekend?
Yeah.
That's the concern.
And this week, whether it was soybeans or whether it was soybean oil or whatever the case was with commodities specifically, any news headlines revolving commodities this week got traded super hard.
Fair.
And even just stuff involving Trump with commodities, those headlines got traded really, really hard this week. So honestly, I thought it held in pretty decent after that news today.
You're probably not wrong
honestly.
about that.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Let's get to the move that we had. If you want to wrap up your final thoughts, I really want to talk about what we saw on the outside markets here over the past few days and how cattle reacted to it, Jeff.
Yeah, so down at the show, we were largely blaming that on the possible strike with the Greeley, Colorado JBS plant. And, often these big moves are probably combined on a couple different levels, of course. But personally, our shop, I would say we're not hugely concerned about that.
Yep.
We don't really need them that bad right now as far as, what we're killing versus the shackle speed.
Way
And I
more
don't
hooks
think-
than cattle at this point.
Yeah, and I can't imagine they'll close that thing down for a month or two.
Yeah, JBS is probably like buying them their picket. So right now, like, here you go, guys. You need any help? You need any red tape? I'll get you.
Right.
I'll feed you out there too if you want. Like, we don't want to be open.
Yeah, I don't know if how that all works for sure, but it's their timing is doesn't seem to be perfect as far as the union side of things, but
Yeah, very much so. The outside markets, just whether it was the S&P or gold, a lot of things got rocked through the middle part of this week. The S&P traded way lower. The gold market traded way lower. It was risk off. It was money flow out of a lot of things it's been going in. Cattle was one of them. We've been on a huge tear, and cattle have been very tied tightly to the S&P 500 and other equities as well on this run-up. And it seems like any day you get a hard down day in the tech sector, Jeff, the cattle market tend to be trading with it as well. And now on the overnight, we rallied back really hard. We're up another 120 today on the S&P on Friday afternoon here. The cattle market responded immediately this morning higher with that after the overnight strength through some of these other things. So I truly believe that maybe the JBS thing wasn't that big of a deal on trade, at least, because we had rumors of that earlier in the week and it never got talked about.
Correct.
And when I saw the reaction the last couple of days, it just seems like the cattle market and the S&P are trading very closely with one another, and that outside market very strong influence these days, to say the least, Jeff.
Yeah, and I think there's even I think there's a pretty close connection there, even if you want to just think about margin calls and such. Like when you get those markets moving very rapidly, people have to do some things that they would maybe even rather not, and there's a lot of outside money into this cattle market today, as we all know. So I do believe there's a connection there. If they're looking to create some capital for the day, you got to start exiting some of these positions you're maybe not even bearish about.
Yeah, just take a win while you still got it.
Yep.
Two, if you're taking a killing on another
fair.
position, the likelihood of me adding risk is small.
Yep.
In anything else. So very interesting trading week. On a long few months there, it was very boring in trade. Volatility was low. And even the cattle market last week, I believe we talked about how cattle and corn had the same volatility level at 15%. Well, that pretty much settles that deal by the end of this week. Soybeans were up.
Changed.
Soybeans were up 50 cents the other day, and corn was up like 2 cents, scratching its you know what. So I just corn didn't want to move, but cattle sure we got some volatility back in that thing, but the direction still is holding quite well. Uptrend alive and well. We got inside of the gap this week, which I wanted to talk about as well too. Feeder cattle 373.60, I believe, on the March high, something like that. That puts it right in the middle of that gap, Jeff. I'm very curious to see how we react up here, only a few bucks away from contract record highs. Index, what are we at? Live index, are we a record yet? Above 376?
No, I don't think
Not
we're
quite.
not quite at a record
No.
there. But yeah,
We're pushing it.
Yes, you're pushing up against it. I agree on the charts. It seems like at least you'd want to fill that gap. I don't know why you wouldn't go put in a new high if we're this close. But
Yeah.
we'll see
I know
if
one thing,
fundamental
buying
news-
gets really hard when you're at record
does.
contract highs,
It's a fair
especially in this volatile environment.
point. Yep.
What other thoughts do you want to send our people home with going
I
into
think
the
that's
weekend?
a lot of stuff moving around this week. So, it can be a stressful time for sure. There's also opportunities buried inside there. So, want to visit about any of that, give us a call. Otherwise, I appreciate you having me around here, Mike.
I just want to bring up soybeans again here before the weekend. 11.37 on March, soybeans for a high today. Had a low at 11.02 through the session. We went way up on the front months, front 3-4 months specifically, and then we brought it all the way back down to even. At one point today, March soybeans were like 20 some cents higher, and the November was actually trading red at that point. So that you could see so clearly, Jeff, that the money flow was just, all right, front 3 months of soybeans, let's go buy it. Yep. And the big money really moved around here this week. So very exciting things to kind of watch from a marketing perspective. The U.S. dollar as well is something continue to keep an eye on. We're down on the U.S. dollar again going into the weekend. Last couple days we were higher, and we saw the S&P and some risk off through that event. Now heading into the weekend, we're seeing that turn lower again. So a lot of big money flow. Been exciting times. Fantastic time at Nashville here this week. Anything to look forward to on the cattle market here the next couple weeks for reports or anything? We got a WASDE report Tuesday, but I know the proteins don't care so much about that.
No, they don't. I think we're a little ways away from any reports on the livestock side.
Awesome.
So we'll just be studying tweets.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.